Okay, never mind. So we will join this time. Uh, so let's start. So basically, you were all, I hope, were present in the last webinar that we had on infection prevention practices and the new era of technology.
Hello, friends. Hello.
Yes, Sumit, yes. So we are just starting the webinar.
Hello. Can you hear me? Is
Yeah,
it,
we can hear you.
who is it?
Yes.
Can hear you.
Yeah, we
Okay.
Yes,
can
we
hear
can
Okay.
you.
hear you, Sumit.
Okay. Okay. That's good. That's good.
Yes.
So basically, so last time, as I was saying, that we spoke about the process wherein the new technologies and what are the metrics of identifying and understanding newer technologies which can come for fighting COVID-19. So an interesting point which came out was silver can be an effective molecule in terms of fighting the COVID-19 situation and COVID-19 pandemic which we are currently seeing. So as an extension, taking it from there, we are today right now talking about can silver fight COVID-19, and for that we have, I think, a right set of panel of people that can actually throw some light on how silver can fight against COVID-19 situation today. So on the panel we have Dr. Sumit Arora. Now, Dr. Sumit is a scientist in US, and he's an eminent person in the silver technology. We know him since almost last 10 to 12 years, and he is one of the pioneer of silver technology. In fact, that's why we have called Sumit here today to discuss about toxicological aspects and the safety aspects of silver, because his paper in molecular pharmaceutics was one of the most cited paper on silver technology, and a real groundbreaking work in India in early 2008 at that point of time. So a very old and a pioneer work that Sumit has done. So I think Sumit will be the right person to talk more about the other aspects of silver besides its antimicrobial activity as well. Then we have so there is an interesting fact about silver is because we as Indians knew silver since a very long period of time, and we have known silver only in the literatures and only in our traditional practices that we are eating in silver thali or drinking from a silver glass. But there has been a lot of strong evidence in Ayurveda of silver being used as an antimicrobial agent, and that's why we wanted some insight from an Ayurvedic perspective on the silver. So, with us, we have today Dr. Maya. Dr. Maya is a very eminent Ayurvedic practitioner. Besides practitioner, she is also a researcher and also an HOD of the Ayurveda department. Also comes from a family of Ayurveda, so I mean she has a very old connection with the Ayurveda. Besides her own experience of working in the Ayurveda field, and so our interactions with her also initiated from an angle of understanding how Ayurveda can actually play a role in our better understanding of silver and silver nanoparticle. And then of course we have Dr. Prasad Bhagat, who's the CTO of VNerd Biosolutions and one of the pioneer in now scaling up the silver technology. So Sumit, the kind of groundbreaking work that Sumit had started of using silver and its application in the wound healing. Now Prasad and the team at VInnovate is now taking it to the next level of scaling it up and making it a commercially viable option. So just to set the premise of the talk. So last time when we spoke with a lot of physicians, we realized the need of a new class of antimicrobial agent that is required from various aspects, not only from an efficacy point of view, because efficacy is an important aspect here, wherein it's not just antibacterial but an antiviral, because there is a new paradigm which is going to come in terms of antiviral testing, antibacterial or antiviral testings which is going to come, and at the same time the guidelines also needs to be modified so that now to call any particular material antimicrobial, there has to be antiviral activity involved in the testing part of it. So besides this, there was another aspect which was raised was healthcare workers safety and the safety of environment. So the kind of chemicals which are there might be effective, but they might not be effective for a longer run from a longer run perspective.
So I think
So I
silver
think
can
silver
be a
can
better
be a
solution,
better
and that's why
solution, and
we are
that's why
here
we
to
are here to
discuss
discuss
that part.
that part today.
So I'll
So I'll
start
start
the
the
webinar
webinar with
talking
talking
to
to
Maya
Dr. Maya,
because
because that's the
that's the
complete
basis the
basis, the
Ayurveda and
Ayurveda
the
and
Indian
the
tradition.
Indian traditional
Dr.
practice. So
Maya,
Dr. Maya,
besides
besides
Ayurveda,
Ayurveda,
we have
we
been
have been
using
using
silver
silver
since a
since
very
a
long
very
time
long time
in
in
our
our
Indian
Indian
traditional
traditional
practice.
practice also.
So
So can
can
you
you
give us a
give us a
little
little sense
sense of
why were
why
the
were the
reasons that
reasons
we
that we were using silver so extensively
since
since
ages
ages, and what role does it plays in our day-to-day life?
Basically, good evening, and I'm happy to contribute some knowledge in this webinar. So, silver and gold are two noble metals which are known to our cultures since thousand of years. Uh, by Ayurved point of view, Ayurveda is not only a medical science; it's a lifestyle. So, this is a part of culture of our Indian life since very long, and there is a historical view of silver metal. According to Ayurveda, there is a story that when uh, a demon called Tripurasur was killed by Lord Shiva, he was fighting with demon, and to kill that Tripurasur, he opened his all three eyes, and from his left eye, tears appeared, and when they fall on the ground, they took the form of silver. Is what a symbolic story.
Oh,
The
wow.
stories are very symbolic. They show us that the tears who took form of silver for killing the Tripurasur. That means this symbolic thing is that silver can be uh, used to throw away all the impurities from our identity life. So in olden age, they used to do the silver plates and silver glasses, and later on when the
Hmm.
Rasa Shastra developed,
Hmm.
the silver was transformed into the bhasma form. So what was
Correct.
this bhasma? It was the fine powder,
Hmm.
very fine powder, which was prepared with using some trees and herbs and biological particles, which
Hmm.
can be digested easily in the body. And
Hmm.
it is said in the text called Bhav Prakash that
Hmm.
this silver can almost cure all the diseases, and it was
Wow.
popularly known as Rajata Bhasma. So,
Correct.
from that era, historical age before Christ till today, we are
Hmm.
using
Hmm.
silver as medicine and ornaments, and still we are using for our worship of God. We are using all silver lights and
Correct.
everything. Silver is
Correct.
most important part of our Indian cultural life and also in Ayurveda.
Correct, 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 correct.
I think it's a
I think
very
it's a very
interesting
interesting
story.
story. We have
So I mean,
so
it
I
is
mean,
not
it is
only
not only
symbolic but also
symbolic but also
scientifically very
scientifically
well
very well
correct.
correct, because
When it is
when it is tears, that means silver is in a liquid form, wherein the ionic release
from maybe the
from maybe the
submicronic
submicronic
particle
particles,
or
or what we call as
what
nanoparticles, would be an effective solution
rather
rather
than
than
just
just
a
a
bulk
bulk
metal of
metal of
silver.
silver.
So
So
I
I
mean
mean,
that's
that's
a
a
very
very
interesting
interesting
observation
observation
that
that
people
people
have
had
made
made,
and
and made a
made a
story out of it.
so
On the same ground, because Sumit has also been working
on
on
silver and
silver and one of the pioneer in silver technology. So Sumit, can you share your experience working with silver in terms of how you started working on silver, and what are the interesting properties of silver that you realized to be of medicinal benefits, and then
Mm-hmm.
then you looked at
Yeah,
exploiting them into and studying it. Yeah.
yeah. Thank you, Milan. So, actually, I would like to take this opportunity to discuss
Mhm.
about the safety of silver nanoparticles. So,
Mhm.
basically, there are so many misconceptions about silver nanoparticles. So, I will try to go step by step. Please feel free to interrupt if there is any question. So,
Sure.
basically, you can say title of my talk is moving beyond fear.
Hmm.
So let's talk a little bit about the history of silver. So
Yeah.
over 130 years ago, in 1889, actually, Dr. Leah he reported synthesis of colloidal silver,
Mhm.
and basically the size of those silver particles, was 7 to 9 nanometer. So to
Okay.
put it more simply, so first half of last century, nano silver was used, and it was referred to as colloidal silver or millimicron silver, and it was widely used as a topical disinfectant throughout the first decades of 20th century. So it's a long history actually. And another important misconception is that antimicrobial nano silver products, they have not been regulated. But in real scenario, nano silver products have been safely regulated since 1950.
Okay.
And if you check the literature actually, so first nano silver product registered under FIFRA, which is a branch of EPA actually. It is Federal Insecticide, Fungicide and Rodenticide Act.
Sure.
First algicide, it came
Yes,
into
yes.
picture in 1950, and
50.
it was used since then actually in residential swimming pools.
Yes,
And
yes, yes.
in my knowledge, there are at least 3 categories of EPA registered products that employ elemental silver particles. So they are biocidal additives, then algicides and disinfectants, and impregnated water filters. So based on all these facts, and moreover, FDA has already approved nano silver dermal wound care dressings, ointment, and in thousands of hospitals every day. They are used in USA.
Yeah, they are
And
also
if
approved
you,
in India. Yeah.
even in India, definitely.
Yeah.
So if you check actually silver nanoparticles global market, I just throw a light on that. So silver nanoparticles are used in electrical, food, beverages, and household industry, and it is actually healthcare industry, which is the largest application segment for silver nanoparticles.
Absolutely.
And and global silver nanoparticle market by application is expected to reach approximately $2 billion by 2022.
Yeah.
And and if we talk about my own experiments, my own experience, so I would like to draw your attention. In our lab, we studied mechanism-based interaction of silver nanoparticles with primary liver cells, fibroblasts, and various more primary cells and secondary cell lines. And these results actually, they indicated safety of silver nanoparticle for human use. We didn't find any toxicity of silver nanoparticles. Moreover, we also prepared S-gel, which is silver nanoparticle-based S-gel formulation for burns and wounds, and both in vitro and in vivo experiments established the safety of this S-gel formulation, and I think it is already in market. It is already being used in Indian market since
Very
long
popular.
time.
Yeah, very popular.
Yeah. So when it and in a recent study, if you see there is a recent study in nanomedicine. So there is a misconception about also safety and how it affects the human beings. So in that study, actually, it has been observed that commercially available silver nanoparticles, when ingested regularly and it has been demonstrated that 14-day monitoring, oral dosing, actually 14-day monitoring of oral dosing of silver nanoparticle does not produce any clinical important changes.
Correct.
Not any significant changes. So again, this is this defines the silver nanoparticle. They are very safe actually. So if you come to actually what is please go ahead.
Sumit, can you also throw some light on the size-based phenomenon? Because when we talk about nanoparticles, there are various size ranges, and depending on the size ranges, there are various nomenclature which has now being decided. So basically, a lot of people that I see gets confused between colloidal silver, silver nanoparticles, and then Rajat Bhasma, of course, which is now called in Ayurveda. So I think there was a size-based phenomena and differentiation between this. Can you throw some light on that?
Yeah. Basically, nanoparticles we define when any particle which is less than 100 nanometer, at least one dimension. So sometimes people confuse between the engineered particles. So they may be engineered or they may be natural. If their size is less than 100 nanometer, so they are nanoparticles. So it doesn't. So they may be engineered or they may be natural. So that can be colloidal, or even if colloidal solution that is less than 100 nanometer, so that you are going to call them nanoparticles. And one more thing I would like to draw your attention actually, fate of these nanoparticles in human body.
Yeah.
Correct. So
Yeah.
once there are many studies where it has been seen that once they are administered orally, so they pass through liver, bile, and excreted through the fecal matter. So they are
Correct.
not going. Yeah. So, and in case of inhalation, definitely they enter the lungs and subsequently bloodstream and other organs, and ultimately excreted through the urine or feces.
Okay. Okay.
And
So
in
basically,
case of skin, then okay, and they can't enter the actually unbroken skin.
correct.
So, but once if they enter into the bloodstream through the broken skin or burn wound infections, they are not toxic and finally taken out through the urine or feces. So
Correct.
they are not toxic at all. And one thing I would like to actually sum up actually before next question. So it would be a big mistake to ignore our scientific knowledge about silver nanoparticle to declare that silver nanoparticles are harmful. So that would be a big mistake. I hope that government agencies, they will understand and no longer impose unwarranted barriers on silver nanoparticle based industries. So
So and
please go
that
ahead
part
with.
Sumit, also regarding the toxicity, there have been no reports. So I mean, there has been as a recreational medication also, silver, colloidal silver is also taken inside the body for as an immunity supporting or booster kind of thing in US, because we have recently seen that reports. But the only known disadvantage of silver, taking silver at a higher concentration, is Algeria, and a lot of people are afraid because there is only one photo on Google of only one
Correct,
person who
correct.
also lived a complete life with that blue color thing. I mean, looking like a
Yeah,
mutant
that's
altogether.
true.
But there was no disadvantages, and that person, I think, after even catching Algeria, there has been no flu or no other diseases that this person actually caught, which is written in the reports per se. So I think that actually sums up the toxicity part of it. So
Yeah, and
let
moreover,
me.
blood serum levels of silver are never actually. There is not a single report that will tell you what blood serum levels of silver are required for Argyria symptoms. Right? There are only speculations that okay, silver. But one thing is sure: if you consume very high amounts of silver daily for several years, it can cause
Correct.
some symptoms like Argyria, but it is
Yeah, yeah.
quite safe. So, yeah.
Yeah. I think abuse of anything is a problematic thing. So that actually brings me to the next point of it, which is more of a efficacy point of view. So from an efficacy point of view, Dr. Prasad, can you throw some light on silver and its efficacy, and also throw some light on the size-based phenomenon and the size-based activity differences that we have seen in silver? Also throw some light on, I mean, we spoke about last time, and we have you spoke very brilliantly on the antibacterial activity, but this time we would also want you to throw some light on the antiviral aspect of efficacy part of silver.
Sure, sure. So, good evening to all the panelists and the attendees. So, first I'll start with the antiviral activity of silver nanoparticles. Now, referring to the current scenario of what we are facing with COVID-19, there are emergence of these virus outbreaks regularly, and this is nothing new for us. But the problem here is we focus mostly, or the technological advancement mostly happens in the area of knowing the virus, then sequencing the virus, then doing some trials or finding the appropriate drug molecules to combat the viral infection. But there are not such technological advancements in the area of preventing such outbreaks. So I feel that preventing such outbreaks is of utmost important right now. And in the current scenario, when we talk about COVID-19,
Yeah.
WHO has always said it very clearly that this virus is not transmitted from air to air. The virus can be transmitted with a mode only by aerosols or from the surfaces. So when it comes to surfaces, no, so sorry, when it comes to the aerosols, we have maintained social distancing, so that is not a problem. We maintain an 11 feet distance between two people, so we can control it over there. But one thing which is lacking is the surface disinfection or hand sanitization, because you can accidentally touch surfaces where an infected person has touched. The virus may be active
Correct.
over there. It can catch your hand, then via the nose or through eyes, it can enter your body.
Correct.
So preventing at this particular step, or innovation at this particular step is very important, rather than looking after the new drug molecules and finding some new vaccines. Now, what
Sure.
happens in drug molecules is, mechanistically, if you go, when a drug is being made, it actually focuses on a very typical and a very important pathway in the virus life cycle. And what happens with all these viruses is they can undergo mutation, they can change the host, and the entire thing can be completely new. So,
Correct.
in this thing, what we need is something which is broad spectrum, right? Even though virus mutates, the same
Correct.
thing should be active against the viruses.
True.
And in
True.
this particular scenario, I feel that silver nanoparticles, being inorganic in nature, they have less chances of getting acquiring resistance the viral particles,
Sure.
and also they have broad spectrum antimicrobial activity. Now,
Sure.
coming to the efficacy point of view, that how these nanoparticles, silver nanoparticles, are efficacious against the viruses. Mostly, we have to understand the life cycle of a virus. What it does is it takes 4 steps. It does 4 steps. First is it attaches to the host because it requires an obligate host for its replication and forming new viral particles. So the first is attachment, then the penetration, then the third thing is the replication of the virus to form newer particles, and the fourth thing is it escapes from the host cell. So
Correct.
most of the drugs which are being made, or the intervention is being done at the attachment phase.
Correct.
So normally the viral particles have glycoproteins on its surfaces, which it attaches with the host cell and then enters into the host cell. So most of the drugs are focusing on the first part, and here comes the role of silver nanoparticles. What it does is the glycoproteins have thiol groups. It has sulfur in it, and silver has a very high affinity towards sulfur. So it binds to the glycoproteins, which blocks the glycoproteins, and there is no interaction between the viral particle and the host thing. So you can stop the infectivity or stop the access of virus to the host cell by
Right.
blocking the glycoproteins.
Right.
Now, again, Sumit talked about the size of the nanoparticles. Size of the nanoparticles is very crucial because there is some spatial arrangement of these nanoparticles on the glycoproteins which hinder its access to the host cell.
Okay.
So it has been found that lesser the size of nanoparticles, maybe 10 nanometer, they are more potent. But somewhere size of 40 nanometer to 20 nanometer is also okay to reduce the infectious nature of this virus. So this is one of the thing which happens in vitro. There are a lot many reports against HIV virus, RSV, respiratory viruses. There are huge references in vitro about how it is being done, and there are very encouraging and positive results about it. Now, coming to the current scenario of preventing the infection of this COVID-19 situation, what we are talking about is it can spread through the surfaces. So it is much easier to use a combination of silver nanoparticles, maybe in an aqueous form or some other form, in which it can directly penetrate the virus. It can go inside the cell membrane, damage it, releasing the silver ions. And the other thing, what silver ions do is they bind to the viral RNA or DNA, depending upon the makeup of the virus, and they completely inhibit the replication. So the cycle stopped at that particular time itself. So what I feel in this current scenario is we need something which is broad spectrum and which will not gain resistance very easily. So I think
Interesting.
silver nanoparticles are a very good option. And Dr. Sumit has talked about the safety and efficacy. So I think that there
Interesting.
is not much issue about
Interesting.
using this in the future.
Sure, interesting. So I think now, basically, as much as we have understood, is basically the activities of two types. Basically, uh, 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 ionic and the physical activity that we have seen. So let us come back again on this part of whether ionic silver or nanoparticulate silver. Ultimately, it is ionic silver which will play the role. So let's go back to Ayurveda again and understand what Ayurveda says is and draw inspiration whether we can actually come to conclusion wherein in Ayurvedic practices also is it the particulate which is affecting or it is ionic which is affecting or it could be both which is affecting. So that brings me back to Dr. Gokhale. Can you just tell us how in Ayurveda the medication or and the role of medicine of silver comes in, and what are the preferred concentrations, or what are the preferred dosage. For example, if it is bhasma, what kind of dosage it is given, what are the indications, what are the contraindications, and are there reports like excess amount of these kind of medications can have some or the other cytotoxic or toxic effects per se, and if you can throw some light on whether particles are better, or ionic silver is also prescribed in Ayurveda.
Basically, in Ayurveda, we
Hmm.
use bhasma form, that is
Hmm.
called as Rajata Bhasma.
Hmm.
In old Ayurveda Rasa Shastra text,
Hmm.
it is said that bhasma form, when bhasma is properly made, what is bhasma? It is the burnt or 100% pure oxidized powder of silver.
Sure.
It is taken up in the body. If it is not 100% oxidized, then it can show the toxicity.
Hmm.
So it depends on how this bhasma is prepared. So
Hmm.
if bhasma is prepared properly, there
Hmm.
are lot of medicine uses of this or Rajata Bhasma. If not prepared properly, it shows different uh, toxic results on the body.
Okay.
So Ayurveda has given a number of procedures to make
Mhm.
bhasma of this silver.
Okay.
And there are two types. One is purification of silver, and second is its total oxidation or bhasmikaran. For
Hmm.
purification, the different uh, procedures are there,
Mhm.
like kulatha, aranala, or some kind of sour or fermented or citric acid like different things are there, which
Mhm.
are said to pure the purification of silver.
Correct.
And after this purification, the burning into the fine powder with again different biological or herbal it is required. So
Correct.
it comes to biometallic sort of plasma, then it is
Mhm.
non-toxic. And the properties which are there in different Sahitas is,
Hmm.
I read it out in Sanskrit and will
Hmm.
explain.
Sure.
Rauप्यam is Shitam, Kashayam, Amlam, Snigdam, Vataharam, Kuru, Rasayana Vidhanena, Sarva Roga Pahakaram. The meaning of this is Raupya means silver, is Shita means it is cold, it is Kashaya means it has got astringent action, it is
Hmm.
Amla means sour in taste, then
Hmm.
Snigdha means little bit oily, and it acts on Vata. There are always three dosha
Hmm.
functioning principles in Ayurveda: Vata, Pitta, Kapha, as you know. So
Hmm.
it is Vata, it is
Hmm.
heavy too,
Hmm.
and it is Rasayan. Rasayan means it has got enhance the CNS system, we can say.
Okay.
And when used wisely with different other drugs, it can take over all different diseases, is what
Mhm.
it is said.
Hmm.
Now, your next question, how it will work in COVID-19.
Hmm.
So our current problem is the COVID-19 virus. Uh,
Hmm.
so silver has special properties. It is lekhana. Lekhana means scraping action.
Hmm.
So we will look into pathophysiology of COVID-19 infections.
Mhm.
In mild cases, the symptoms are
Hmm.
mild fever, dry
Hmm.
cough,
Hmm.
nasal congestion, malaise, and headaches.
Hmm.
Now, silver has properties
Hmm.
like Shita Guna,
Hmm.
Snigdha Guna,
Hmm.
so which act on Vata. The dry cough is said to be because of this Vata element. So
Mhm.
when silver acts on Vata element, it can cure this dry cough, and due to its Lekhan properties,
Mhm.
it can scrape the impurities from the system, or we can
Correct.
say the respiratory tract. So it is
Mhm.
said that it acts on Kasa. Kasa means coughing.
Mhm.
So silver acts on Ruksha Kasa or Vataja Kasa. the same symptom we see, the dry cough in COVID-19. And another thing is in moderate patients, the scenario is they suffer from pneumonitis, mild pneumonitis. Being kashaya or astringent action, silver can absorb the accumulated fluids from system of the body. Hence, it absorbed those excessive fluids in different systems. So it is very much useful in diabetic also. So
Correct.
it like same wise where the accumulation is there, the silver acts very well. And in the same way, when the patient is suffering from hemiplegia and has some accumulation, and there also silver acts very well and gives strength to the nervous system or nerves
Okay.
by scraping all impurities. Uh, so by scraping impurities, it can show the anti-inflammatory action because
Correct.
COVID-19 we find inflammation of throat. There are upper respiratory tract infection symptoms basically. It goes
Correct.
to lower respiratory tract, then it comes to uh, a little bit severe symptoms where a need of ventilator is to the patient. But when there is upper respiratory tract infection, the silver can act very well by this scraping or lechan action, and by its functioning of absorbing the uh, unwanted accumulated fluids or toxic fluids from the body.
Okay. Okay.
So,
So.
and it is also rejuvenating. It gives strength. So in the later on condition, when patient has to recover, the rejuvenating or rasayan action of silver will also give or show overall improvement of the patient's condition.
Okay.
So
Okay.
this can be happen with the silver bhasma or rajata bhasma in Ayurvedic.
Okay, interesting. I think the Ayurveda insights are something which is an eye opener. I mean, there is a
Yes,
deep
yes.
science which is there in Ayurveda, and we have been,
Actually,
studying it very superficially in the science that we are doing. But as we always say that we need to do this animal study or we need to do this in vitro and then find out whether it is interacting with some genes or not. But in Ayurveda, I think there hasn't been a very good description which is already given. So that brings me to the point that, of course, whatever we see from the bhasmas is again and particulate activity that we can see rather more than the ionic activity. But because when we are also saying a scraping kind of activity, it might be because of surface adsorption properties of silver, because anyways the ionic form of silver is not going to interact anywhere in the body. So brings back to Sumit now. Sumit, again, two questions. One is asked from an audience that there have been few reports about silver toxicity, cytotoxicity of silver into mononuclear cells. Certain report about toxicities which is already given in the paper. Again, it is a concentration dependent activity, but you have studied the fate of the nanoparticles in your paper, where the silver nanoparticle goes inside the cell, and if the cytotoxic effect comes in at a certain concentration, how and why it becomes cytotoxic.
Yeah, actually, there are reports about mononuclear cell that it is cytotoxic. But again, as Milind told, that it is definitely concentration dependent. So at low concentration, it may not be toxic. If you increase concentration very high, then definitely it is going to be showing toxicity. But I check the mechanism. I check the how silver nanoparticle interact with the cells. So in my study, what I found actually basically when we treated cells with nanoparticles, so where they are actually going actually inside the cells. So we did transmission electron microscopic studies and how cell combat that stress. So we found basically they go inside most of the nanoparticles, they go inside the mitochondria actually, mitochondria, and mitochondria is the basic organelle that take care of oxidative stress. And
Correct.
there are so many enzymes like catalase, glutathione reductase. So basic mechanism is cell try to combat that toxicity if there is any. So because levels are so high, those enzymes are so high. So in my case, whatever I studied in primary fibroblast and liver cells, they were able to take care of this kind of toxicity. But definitely, if you increase the stress beyond that cell can handle, so definitely it will be toxic. But again, it depends on the concentration. But when you check the concentration of its antimicrobial activity versus its cytotoxicity, there is a very big therapeutic window. So we start getting antimicrobial activity around 1 microgram per ml. But according to my studies, I found toxicity even IC50 actually with the primary cells at more than 250 microgram per ml. So therapeutic window is very big.
So that's
So I
really
don't think there
interesting.
should be any worry about those.
Sure. So I think that's very interesting about silver, and that's why, I mean, from our preliminary experiences of working with silver since a long time, is that's why we love silver so much. Is the difference between the efficacy window, that is the MIC values, and the difference between the cytotoxicity is more. Besides the cytotoxicity, what we are saying is what we are translating into the primary cells again in vitro. But when it goes into in vivo, the cytotoxicity also increases, because we have seen. I mean, very also Prasad was, I think, doing this study of dose range finding, and he had to give so high concentration of silver so that he can find out a largest dose for silver. I think, Prasad, you can throw some light on that part as well.
Yes, sure. So coming to the in vivo toxicity of the silver nanoparticles, an extensive study has been done by many groups. And just to quote a few effects of silver nanoparticles and different toxicity is like if you go for acute oral toxicity, the LD50 quoted for colloidal silver is greater than 500 mg per kg. And these were tested according to the OECD guideline. Then if you come to mice, the LD50 is around 10,000 mg per kg. Again for this. So and coming to acute dermal toxicity, because a lot of applications, what we are saying would be a topical or dermal application. The LD50 is around more than 2,000 mg per kg of the body weight for rats.
Okay. That's pretty
so
high.
These concentrations are pretty high, and we would not operate in these particular concentrations when we are using it in humans, because in humans we use it at a very lower concentration. And with the advent of nanoparticles, the innovation of nanoparticles was done just to reduce the dose of the silver ions, and only when it's required the ion should be present. So earlier innovation were in the area of silver nitrate, where the concentration has to be very high. The ions were in a very higher number. Then came the innovation of using silver sulfadiazine, which could give a controlled release of silver ions.
Correct.
And then later on, the innovation was with silver nanoparticles. So with the help of silver nanoparticles, we're actually reducing the dose and increasing the efficacy.
Correct. So I was exactly going to the same point and going to come to you with the same question, was again, whether nanoparticles or ionic silver. So I mean, that also brings me to another interesting question that somebody has asked us, that FDA had issued a notice to companies in USA who are selling colloidal silver products as a cure for COVID-19. I mean, they are in US, there are under the recreational medication head, there have been a lot of practices which are going, and people are doing marketing claims by themselves and not being backed by substantial amount of evidences. So that's why I think we have also seen FDA issuing notices to some of the other companies who are selling colloidal silver for oral applications. So Prasad, you can comment something.
Yes, surely. So now, if you come to US FDA, US FDA has approved the use of colloidal silver in 1920. Okay. So colloidal silver based 50 type of products were available in the 1920s era. There was a huge amount of products involving colloidal silver. As Sumit has also said, that Alzidine was an EPA approved product for treatment of swimming pool water, and it is still being used. There are 3 to 4 EPA approved products which are being used still now. Now, with the advent of antibiotics in 1940, this colloidal silver or inorganic molecule was put on a back hold, and people shifted to the organic molecules, and antibiotics were being used. So later on, still some people stuck with this colloidal silver, and there were some products with colloidal silver in 1970s and in 1980s also. So there was a serious problem somewhere in 1995 when the US FDA actually went through some of the products and actually assessed them. So they found that there were many of the products were fake, which didn't contain colloidal silver. Some had quoted some different size, and actually the results had gave some different size. So there were a lot of fake products on the name of colloidal silver, which have been used in this particular market during 1995 to 1999, and that's why uh, the US FDA is a bit apprehensive about using colloidal silver. But there is another product based in USA which is used for the wound healing application and which has colloidal silver in it and which has been approved by US FDA and that has been approved by the Indian DCGI also. So the problem with people using colloidal silver is like they are not following the label claims. If your label claim is something different and you are using it for some different indication, or there is something very different product which are being made, then definitely it is not going to pass through the regulations and they will raise some objections.
Correct.
So that is where the problem lies with it.
Correct. So I think that's an interesting point. So with this, in fact, again, so one thing is very common that silver per se is going to be very effective in terms of all these things. A lot of proofs which are coming through are mechanistically. We are all thinking that it will work and it might work in the situation of COVID-19. However, there is another major issue that people are facing right now is whether it is orally as a treatment or as a preventive measure. So I would like to ask both you, Prasad, and Dr. Sumit, what do you think should be preferentially the first priority for us? Whether should we look for preventive options using silver, or shall we look for curing options using silver?
So can I start, Sumit?
Sure, please.
So maybe what I feel is like we should use it for some preventive options.
Okay.
Because the therapeutic options are still there. A lot of study needs to be done to actually make a product out of it. But
Correct.
what we can intervene, and I would like to again highlight the problem that we can prevent some of this outbreak of these infectious diseases if we maintain a very good hand hygiene or social distancing. So if we can work at the preventive phase, and if we have a molecule which can work against the viruses based on the reports what have been generated in the research area, we can definitely go for it.
Correct.
Yes,
Sumit?
Yeah, I agree with Dr. Prasad. We can start with as a preventive measure, but later on, so definitely, it's my gut feeling we can extend it for a curative also, because of its anti-inflammatory and other properties that it can take care of the symptomatic symptoms, actually COVID-19 symptoms and other viral influenzas, right? So I think we should extend it later on to definitely to curative, and it should work based on its history and its physical properties and whatever we know till date.
Yes, yes.
Okay, great. So I think it is very interesting that what is coming, and I think I'm very happy that we are actually having this discussion. But because often and not we don't see such kind of technical discussions being had so openly. We actually have it in closed door or in some of the other kind of complicated language and into some of the other very famous publications which has no access to a general public. So I mean, I am myself feeling very happy about that we are having this kind of discussion over a general forum. So as a conclusion, I would like to ask all you panelists again that how do you see the fate of silver? Because see, right now when we are saving, whether it is preventive or curing action, curing might have a very small limited kind of application, but when we are talking from a preventive application, it's going to have a very long pathway running looking at the situations, because preventive is something that we would always require. Curing maybe for a certain time period till the pandemic is there, until we get the vaccine out immediately into the market. So again, starting with Dr. Gokhale, I would like to have a concluding remark from you. Where do you see silver as either preventive or treatment option moving forward? And what do you, because there is a lot of general audience which is also listening, scientific and non-scientific, what do you want to comment on, if I mean this has to be brought forward as a product into the market, as an Indian product into the market, to give it to the world, what are the things that you would require as an Ayurvedic practitioner, and from a policy point of view, or let's say from a government support point of view, what are the things that you would ask?
Okay, first I'll say Ayurveda deals with both preventive as well as curative. And by preventive mode of action, you might have all heard that Chyawanprash, the name of Chyawanprash. There are some products, Raupya Yukta Chyawanprash. So
Correct.
they, so this is what the silver has already the immunity booster, or we are already using it as prevention because it is
Hmm.
said to be balya or giving
Hmm.
strength to the tendons and different body systems and muscles. And even it is used for rejuvenating of the body, and even in some cases of when the child is weak or something, children, they are given in small amounts, that 30 milligram, 60 milligram, or 125 milligram silver bhasma or rajat bhasma is there in different products also. It is used in
Okay.
combination for preventive, for immunity booster, and for
Okay.
curative purpose also in different systemic diseases like hemiplegia and CNS system, then things called Alzheimer diseases. It is used as curative also. But talking about COVID-19, I agree with all these experts that definitely there should be uh, use of silver, but should be clinically proven by clinical trials. Uh,
Hmm.
and the particle size is should be such that it should not be renal toxic, because when bhasma is not properly prepared,
Absolutely.
it is renal toxic many a times. So what we need Ayurveda is a properly prepared bhasma or properly prepared drug, because it is metal and inorganic, it should not be toxic. And in Ayurveda, it is the ancient practice to use it for prevention also and for cure also. But what
Correct.
needs to be now proven is it is also useful in COVID-19 by clinical
Hmm.
trials, is what I feel.
Sure. Sure. And what do you ask to the regulators and policy makers, and from the government side, what are the things that you would want, as an academician also, to promote this more, and bring it out, the science behind it, the products out of it?
Yes, actually, we need first the toxicological study
Hmm.
of the new molecule or products, and then the clinical trials, the
Hmm.
second phase in different patients, where now government has not given permission to all Ayurvedic centers to
Hmm.
admit the COVID patient. Currently they are only admitted, or we are getting patients only in government hospitals, or those where the quarantine zones or special precautions are taken.
Correct.
As it is newly coming, we don't have access to the patients, so that we get number of more patients to take the clinical trial. So it is
Huh.
going to have time. So my expectation from Ayurveda is the financial support from government to different all researchers, and little bit help, that they should give us permission to uh, do these researches in the government hospitals.
Correct. Correct. It's a very valid point, because Ayurveda has always been underestimated. And in a pandemic, why are we underestimating the power of Ayurveda in terms of treating pandemics like this? I think there were pandemics before even the modern medicine came in India, and we were fine. As a race, we have always succeeded and fought, and I think we are one of the people who have the highest amount of herd immunity in terms of fighting against all these things. So Ayurveda, I think, has a very important role to play. So Sumit, again, final comments from your side. What do you want from, again, regulators looking forward? How do you see the future of silver in terms of products that are going to be in the market, and how COVID-19 can actually move the space faster?
Actually, based on the non-scientific literature and long history of silver being used as a disinfectant without any side effects, so I think this is the high time in the current scenario of COVID-19. This is the high time to understand the importance of silver nanoparticle, and government agencies should no longer impose unwarranted barriers. So it is being used as disinfectant, right? There is no side effects. This is very safe. So I think government agencies should go ahead and at least they should try it as a disinfectant, and I personally believe it will do wonders.
Yeah. So as a disinfectant also, because a lot of people are asking the same questions, because today in India, I think across the world, this tunnel system has also picked up a huge amount of popularity, and the kind of chemicals they're using is sodium hypochlorite and sometimes now hydrogen peroxide also, and people are now facing problems. So a lot of people have this concern whether if let's say as a disinfectant silver nanoparticles are used, what about if they are actually inhaled inside while moving through the tunnel or through the oral route? If it goes inside, what happens to the nanoparticles?
I don't. There are already enough studies actually out there where people, their scientists have studied their fate in human body. So the concentration at which silver nanoparticles are being used as a disinfectant, so they are not causing any kind of problem actually.
Correct.
There, even
correct.
hematological studies. Please go ahead.
Yeah, I think the answer is again the difference between the MIC value and toxicity ranges. It's huge.
Wide range, huge range.
The therapeutic window.
So we should not worry. Therapeutic window is very, very broad.
Correct. And Prasad, your final comments on what moving forward, how do you see silver moving in the market? What kind of products that you see in the market? How COVID-19 is going to affect, and what do you want from the regulators and government bodies and other stakeholders?
Yes, definitely. It is very challenging to convince the regulatory bodies that we are coming up with a particular product which is in the form of hand sanitizer. But in the other way, it is also good that they are critically analyzing it and then only letting us go ahead. So currently, I would just like to tell you that we have applied for a manufacturing license for colloidal silver based hand sanitizer, and the CDSCO has told us to do clinical trials. So what all product would be coming out of it would be approved by the central government. Now, there are many other products which are being there right now in this COVID-19 situation and which claim that they have antiviral activity or it can be used as disinfectants. But unfortunately, they are not being approved by any of the state FDA or the central DCGI or CDSCO. So that is a problem over there. The other thing is like, I can see a question from Dr. Abhay in which he says that you are looking for disinfectant or oral inhalable against COVID. Sir, we are looking for a disinfectant in the form of a hand sanitizer. And the CDSCO has told us to do clinical trials, which we'll be doing in the next month. And there are questions like about agglomeration also. Agglomeration is a problem, yes, when you talk about nanoparticles, because the method of synthesis is very much important and what capping agents are being used. So we are working on this particular colloidal silver nano formulations in the past 2 years, and we have finalized one formulation in which our nanoparticles remain are in complete colloidal state, and there are very, very less chances of agglomeration. So you have pointed out very rightly, Usha Sundar, that agglomeration is an issue because the entire activity of silver nanoparticles is based on its nano form. So it should remain in the nano form. The other question is about disinfectant tunnels. We can use it in disinfectant tunnels, but going through a very correct pathway is you have to approach the state FDA or the central licensing authority, because blindly people have been using sodium hypochlorite, quaternary ammonium salts in the disinfection tunnel. Now these are potent antimicrobials, we can understand, but these are also very hazardous when they are exposed to skin, eye, or any other body parts. So this was not been thought of. After we came to know that this sodium hypochlorite has been used overall in India in the disinfection tunnels, the central government had issued a notice that this is not a disinfectant to be used on human skin, and it has been banned right now. So in this scenario, the question is AGNP can be used as a community disinfectant. Yes, it can be used because we have the references data of acute oral toxicity, dermal toxicity, inhalation toxicity. And the concentration of what we will be using in the disinfection tunnels would be around 5 to 10 ppm. So it is very way less. And what Sumit very rightly talked about is the therapeutic window. So the antimicrobial activity happens at 1 microgram per ml. And the toxicity, what you're talking about, is more than 250 microgram per ml. So we are never going to have such higher concentrations used for disinfection. Our ultimate aim is to kill the microbes or viruses, which can be killed at 1 microgram. So there is no use of increasing the concentration and making it an hazard for the human beings. Yes, that's it. Yeah.
Prasad, and finally, a last comment on. I mean, you spoke about it
Yes.
last time, the ecotoxicity aspect of silver. If you can just, briefly talk about that as well.
Yes, yes. Now, many people are worried about the ecotoxicity of silver nanoparticles. Now, what happens is the basic activity of silver nanoparticles is due to the release of ions. When it comes in contact with oxygen, the surface to volume ratio is high of a nanoparticle, so it starts releasing the ions, and the ions actually cause the damage. Now, the ions can also be released in the environment. So, taking an example of disinfectant tunnel, so if you're spraying a mist, there might be some droplets which are being formed and which are being released in the drainage system. So these ions are actually in a very active form. But if you see that the flow of water would always go to the drainage, or it has been released into the wastewater treatment, there the sulfur levels are very high. And this ionic silver forms a complex with this sulfur to form a very stable compound, which is called as silver sulfide, Ag2S. Ag2S is a very stable compound, and it doesn't release any ions. So it gets sedimented. And when silver is in the metallic form, it is not that active. The activity is all based on the ionic form. So even if it goes to the environment, it forms a very stable compound. And just to give you, around 320 tons of silver is being released every year globally in the water bodies.
Okay.
Yes.
And I would like to add one thing in this.
Sure.
So a large fraction of silver released to freshwater bodies, it absorbs to suspended particulate matter, and mostly it is transformed to sediments where it may form reservoirs. So that is also
Yes.
one state. Yeah,
Oh, nice.
Yes.
Okay, I think great. I mean, this was indeed one of the best webinar sessions that I have attended. I mean, starting from Ayurveda to the modern medicine, and then a very deep understanding of the subject. First of all, I'm very thankful to all of you, Dr. Maya Gokhale, Sumi. Thank you for waking up so early in US, joining for the call with all these emergencies that you have. I mean, you are fighting for COVID-19, and again, you are one of the key person in this technology development part of it. And thank you very much, Prasad, for this insightful talk. I mean, the biggest
Thank you.
takeaway from this today's session is again the scientific understanding and our own understanding about the silver is one part. But second part is, I mean, I'm so happy that we are having kind of a a technical conference here, or just sitting in our homes. And I think one of the best thing that COVID-19 in this unfortunate time has given is this video conferencing and webinar kind of thing. I mean, the kind of things that are written in a complicated language are made so simply and easily, and we can immediately ask questions and address it. I mean, uh, thank you for giving me a wonderful interaction and understanding, and all our participants the understanding about silver and its fate. I hope I understand that we are also working on colloidal silver technology, and hopefully we can actually take it forward much stronger into the market. However, the strategy also that we are thinking that it needs a proper scientific backup, and then only we can establish these kind of technologies and even base of Ayurveda very strongly into the scientific medication or preventive action. So even if it is a FMCG product or a medicinal product based out of silver, it needs to be backed up with a substantial amount of scientific literature. So that's the aim of this call. Thank you, panelists. Thank you, all the participants, for joining and asking such a wonderful questions. We'll keep doing such webinars. Maybe next week also we'll have another webinar, which will be again from an interesting topic about COVID-19. And I think we'll continue this activity post COVID-19 as well, as a regular activity of Be Inert Biosolutions, interacting with everybody. So thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Milind. Thank you all the panelists.
Thank you, Dr. Prasad. Thank you, Dr. Maya. Thank you
Yes,
very
thank
much.
you very much for
We
joining.
indeed appreciate your efforts. Thank you very much. Stay safe, stay healthy.